When you go out to lunch and you see a person sitting by themselves at the restaurant, eating alone, how do you feel? Does it make you sad? Are you inspired that they're there and eating by themselves without needing another person or more people to be comfortable? How does it make you feel? Today, we're going to talk about doing things alone and the pros and cons of doing things by yourself. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English on Autopilot. And today, I'd like to talk about something that I think is really important, and that's the ability to do things on your own. Now, moving abroad forces you to do a lot of things on your own, but even before I moved abroad, I was always quite comfortable doing things by myself. However, when I moved abroad, it forced me to do even more things alone. When I moved to Spain, I didn't come with anyone. So you can imagine it's a giant trip by yourself. It was the first time I'd left the country, and there was no one by my side to talk about, to go to for help. And so some of the times it was a little more difficult, right, to be alone and wanting someone to be next to you to share that experience with. However, it forces you to grow, right? Doing things alone forces you to grow, but there's a lot of different pros and cons as well. The first thing that I'd like to discuss is the freedom and flexibility that comes with doing things alone. For example, you go out to eat by yourself. Well, you get to pick when you go. It doesn't matter about anyone else's schedule. It's basically whenever you feel like it or whenever you're hungry. Also, you get to pick the restaurant. If today you're feeling like going to have Indian food and you want Indian food, you're craving it, you go to an Indian restaurant. You don't have to check with anyone. You don't have to see what the other person wants or what they are feeling like today or if they even want to go out to a restaurant. It's all up to you. On top of that, you're able to order whatever you like, right? So for me, whenever I go eat out by myself, I don't feel lonely. I don't feel like I'm missing something. I enjoy and I pick one of my favorite restaurants or I decide on a new restaurant. I pick whatever cuisine I want. Maybe tonight I want Italian food. And I'll go to the restaurant and I'll order whatever sounds good to me on the menu. Don't need to check with anyone. And sometimes it is nice. However, sometimes you might feel lonely, right, at the restaurant. And one thing that I love to do is I love to go out to eat with people. I love to share my food with other people and try different things on the menu with them. So it's not the best all the time. Sometimes it's nice, but I feel like if I had to do it every day, all the time, anytime I went out to eat, I don't think I would be happy after a while. Now, even though you might miss sometimes having someone with you, it forces you to spend time with yourself and it makes you have some introspection because you're with yourself and your thoughts and you can think a little bit. And to me, I think it's a great way to grow personally because you learn to be comfortable with yourself. And I know it sounds weird, but you get to know yourself better. Because in this world that we live in today, with so much stimuli out in the world of social media, television, podcasts, things like that, sometimes you realize you don't have a moment to be by yourself and to just think and to let your brain, well, one, be bored and to let your mind wander like you did when you were a child and you would come up with games or new things. And because of that, I think it's a great way to grow. It's a great way to realize who you are, what you like, what you believe, because you give yourself that space to meditate on your thoughts. So even though you're alone, it doesn't mean you really are because you're by yourself, but you're with yourself. And for me, it's the best way to connect. Maybe you're stressed, maybe you're having a hard time, and you go by yourself and you're thinking, maybe you find a solution to your problem. Or maybe you realize that even though it's stressful, you're learning this about yourself and you realize this is a problem and this is something that you need to solve. And maybe you come up with that solution, right? Also, something about being alone can be quite peaceful, calming, right? You don't have the need to make conversation. You can be relaxed, you can be by yourself and find a certain comfort in it, in the fact that you don't need to try to entertain someone else. You can just be by yourself. And that calm, that peacefulness of going to have breakfast and you order your coffee or whatever to drink, you order your breakfast, and maybe you're at a cafe and you can sit and watch people go back and forth, see the cars pass by, or maybe a more natural landscape if you're by the beach or you're next to a park, you can just sit back and enjoy that calm, not even thinking about problems or anything like that, or not even thinking at all, just enjoying the moment. And to me, it's a moment of calm and peace that can really help me start the day if I'm having breakfast by myself, or end the day if it's dinner. After a busy day at work, it's kind of nice to sit down, order some good food, and just relax. Now, I challenge you, if you go out to eat by yourself, to do it without headphones, to not put on music or a podcast to try to keep yourself entertained. Don't bring a book or something. Don't look at your phone. Just enjoy the moment, enjoy the food, enjoy the atmosphere around you of the restaurant, or if you're eating outside, of the nature. I think you're going to find that it's quite enjoyable. Now, another thing might that a lot of people might like is the efficiency. When you're with other people, when you go, let's say, on a trip, for example, you go on a trip with a lot of your friends. Now, this can be very fun. These are some of the best memories I have, going on trips with my friends and enjoying exploring a new city with them and doing things like that. However, if you go with four, five, six people, everyone has their own schedule. Everyone has things they need to do. And maybe you're planning to go to a museum at 1 o'clock, but this person is in a different part of the city because they went to breakfast, and this person still needs to get ready, and all of a sudden you end up at the museum at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, your schedule for the rest of the day might be thrown off, and it can be a little frustrating. For me, I love to take trips by myself because I get to set the schedule, and I can be efficient because I know where I want to go and the time that I want to be there. The last trip I took by myself was to the south of Spain, to a beautiful, beautiful city called Granada, and it is amazing. The architecture, the atmosphere, the vibe of the entire city is quite magical. And it was one of the best trips I've ever taken. I went by myself and I set my own itinerary, my own schedule for the trip, places I wanted to go, things I wanted to do. And I never felt rushed either. I never felt like other people wanted to do more things. And so whatever I wanted to do had to fit into the schedule, right? Maybe I went to a certain place and I planned to only be there for 30 minutes. But I get there and I realize it's a lot bigger than I thought, and that actually it's way more interesting and that I want to spend more time. And I could, right? I had that ability because I was by myself. Or the opposite. I had a place planned and I thought it would be amazing and I'd spend hours there. And I get there and I realize, well, it's not as interesting as I thought. It's not exactly what I wanted to do. And I didn't have to stay because I was by myself. Those are all great pros, right? Those are all great things about being alone, doing things alone, whether it's going to eat, going on a trip. Another thing that I like to do is go to the movies. I went to a movie by myself recently because it was a movie I really wanted to see that my friends didn't really want to see, but I said, no problem at all. And I went to the movie by myself because I really wanted to see the movie. However, one of my favorite things about going to a movie is talking about it after with the people that you went to the movie with, commenting on it, talking about what you really thought about the movie, certain scenes that impacted the overall meaning. But when you go by yourself, you don't have that opportunity after. And that's one thing that can be maybe a little negative or a con or even a little sad about doing things alone is you lose out on the shared memory of the people that you went with. There's no one I can talk about my last trip with because I went by myself. The people that I met in the city, they don't live in Madrid. And so now those shared memories, I'm not able to talk about, right? Those people either live in Granada or live in other countries. And so now when I look back and I tell stories about the trip, I don't have anyone to share the story with in the sense of that they were also there living it. And it's the same when I left the movie and I wanted to comment on the movie, talk about it, describe how I felt about the music, the different scenes. There was no one to talk about it with or even debate with, right? Maybe I loved the movie and I did, but the person I went with or the people I went with, maybe they didn't like it as much. And then after we could have gotten dinner or a drink and discussed why I liked it, why they didn't like it, and things like that. And it's really a lot of fun, right? To be able to discuss the movie after. And so you kind of miss out on that when you do things alone. Maybe you try a new restaurant and you loved it, but you have no one to discuss about how great the food was, or the opposite, that it was horrible. You have no one to talk about how terrible the food was, how gross it was, or how bad the service was. When you're by yourself, it's just with yourself. You can comment about it to yourself, but there's something about sharing that experience with other people that is really enjoyable. Now, another thing that has to do with traveling, obviously, I'm a man, and traveling by yourself as a man is a different experience than traveling by yourself as a woman. The safety issues, especially depending on where you go, can be drastically different. And so, while it might be easy for me to say to go on a trip by yourself, it's great, it's such a great experience, I think I have a little bit more of a privilege to say that because as a man, the safety concerns are different. Of course, anything can happen. Someone could still rob me or something like that. A bad thing could still happen to me. Just because I'm a man doesn't mean I'm immune from something bad happening. However, we need to recognize that it's very different, the safety concerns of a man compared to a woman in many, many places. So the safety concerns is also something to take into account here, right? Because just because I felt comfortable or I feel comfortable doing certain things doesn't mean that everyone would feel comfortable or needs to feel comfortable. Because if you're worried about taking a trip by yourself as a woman and you don't know if it's the right idea, and you hear everyone saying it's going to be great for you, but you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to do it. And if you don't feel comfortable, you shouldn't do it. However, if you can go to a country that might be a little safer or change your plan a little bit, especially at night, let's say, maybe not explore new areas of a city or areas that might be not the best, things like that, you can maybe adjust a little bit. Now, of course, another thing that's a con that a lot of people might feel is lonely. It's okay to feel lonely, but just because you're alone doesn't mean you have to feel lonely. Being alone does not mean being lonely, right? And I think sometimes it takes a little practice of being alone to not feel lonely. So maybe the first thing you do alone isn't a week long trip. Maybe the first thing you do alone is going to get dinner by yourself and letting yourself experience it and see if you like it. Because not everyone's going to like it. I like it, but that doesn't mean the whole world will, right? Maybe you think you wouldn't and you try it. You go to coffee by yourself and you have breakfast and you end up having the best time. Well, you realize that being alone for you is great. Or you think you might love it and you try it and you realize, oof, no, no, this isn't for you. That's perfectly okay. Another thing, and the last con I would say, is a little bit of the social expectation related to doing things alone. When I've been out to eat by myself, I've had people kind of look at me in a way of like, oh, poor guy alone eating dinner. It's like, no, I wanted to come here and either my friends were busy or I just wanted to come by myself. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think in our society, we view people doing things alone as something that's sad, as something as if they are forced to do it. And that, of course, it wouldn't be their own choice to be doing things alone, but it perfectly well could be, right? I think there's a trend on social media of people seeing a video of an older person, like an older man that's in his 70s or 80s, eating breakfast by himself, and people uh, post a video of them reacting to the video and they're crying and they say, oh, this poor man, if I was there, I would sit with him and keep him company. But what if the old man doesn't want your company? What if he's perfectly happy going to the same restaurant every day to have breakfast by himself as a moment for himself to take time to take care of himself, right? I think a lot of it is the social expectation that being alone means 100% that that person has to be lonely, but it's not true. At least I don't think so. What do you think? Put it in the comments below. Do you enjoy doing things alone? And what are the things you like to do alone? For me, I said I love to go to restaurants, go to movies, travel alone, even go to museums. What do you like to do alone? If you like this video, please go ahead, put a big thumbs up down below. Don't forget to subscribe to keep watching as the videos come out. And if you can, donate €1 or €2 to help continue this project. All right, everyone. Have a great day, great week, great weekend, whenever you're watching this, and we'll see each other in the next one. Bye.